Hello and welcome back to TICKER Cyber, where we are encouraging you to get on top of your cybersecurity by building cyber fitness into your home and business. And joining me as always is the team from Cynch Security. I've got Adam Selwood and Susie Jones. Welcome to the program.
Hey Mike, how are you?
Doing well. Enjoying the new space at the studio down here in TICKER headquarters. I'm looking forward to having you both in studio at some point. But let's get into it. Susie, what are we going to be chatting about today? I thought this was a really interesting breakdown you both sent.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss possible security implications for small businesses, particularly those in retail and hospitality who are being asked to police entry to their venues for unvaccinated patrons. There's also been a huge breach of personal information for tourists who visited Thailand prior to the pandemic outbreak. And finally, October is Cyber Awareness Month, so there's going to be a stack of free information available across the month. So we'll give you a heads up on what to look out for.
Awesome, Susie. So let's dive right in. I want to get your thoughts. Take us through your thoughts on the vaccine passports and the security implications it has for small businesses. We've obviously seen a bit of backlash recently with riots/protests, anti-vax sentiments going around, but I was very curious to see it actually intersect with cybersecurity. What are some of the implications we can expect to see?
Yeah, there's actually a lot to unpack here when it comes to vaccine passports and what it means for small businesses, particularly those in hospitality and retail. So our understanding, at least here in Victoria, is that businesses themselves will be obligated to enforce restrictions on those entering their venues that don't have vaccines or a so-called vaccine passport. And so this will mean, for example, that bars and restaurants that wish to open their beer gardens in a few weeks' time when we're allowed to, for fully vaccinated patrons, will need to verify the vaccination status of each individual. When you think about the security implications of this, however, things get a fair bit trickier. There are already reports of fake vaccine passports being sold on the dark web for as little as $500, and for an extra $1,000 they'll update your Medicare records as well. So how can a business demonstrate that they've taken the reasonable steps to verify a vaccine passport in their business and therefore meeting their obligations? What records do they need to keep to say that they have been doing the right thing? How can they balance all of this with their obligations regarding privacy implications and viewing of personal information? What training do they need to provide their staff? So to add to all of that, what happens if Telstra has an outage like what they've been known to do in the past? And does that mean that restaurants can't open because no one can show their phone and that the fact that they have a vaccine passport? So with the government still trying to figure out how to connect state check-in applications with Medicare records, we're still a really long way from having answers to all of these questions. And yet small businesses really do need to start planning now on how are they going to manage it and what training do they need to provide their staff.
You have highlighted some amazing points that I didn't even think about. When it comes to privacy, your local coffee shop is all of a sudden, people saw it with the QR codes when that was developing in the early stages of the lockdowns. But you're right, QR codes, signing in, giving details, giving your vaccination records seems to be a really strange one. For my local bar, my local coffee shop, it's a very strange space to be in. But Adam, I'll go to you now. And managing these obligations seems to counteract each other. Is it harder for small businesses already? How are they going to get this right in your eyes?
Yeah, you raised a really good point there, Mike, with those way back when we started doing QR code check-ins and whatnot. It was pretty much a free-for-all. Businesses were just scrambling to figure out how to check someone in. Do we just write it on a piece of paper? What do we do from that point of view? And then eventually we moved over to these state check-in things. And they're working really well now. It's taken a lot of the onus out and taken that responsibility away for small businesses. But you're right, that you're asking the right question. And ultimately it is getting harder for small businesses to figure out what is it that they're actually storing and collecting, what obligations are coming with that, both for them to actually collect that information in the first instance. But then also, what are they supposed to be doing with that information afterwards? Do they store it? Do they keep records of that? Are there privacy regulations that they need to be thinking about? Like, this sort of thing is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge for small businesses and businesses of all sizes, really. And it is something that they need to be working and thinking about. Just as an example, if you've got a European citizen that comes and stays and visits you and you're collecting the vaccination status of that, not really a big issue right now because there's probably not a lot of traveling and tourism and whatnot. But once that happens, are you obligated under European privacy regulations to actually do certain things around that information that you've now been obligated locally to store. So it's really going to be quite complex and confusing for businesses if they're not already thinking about that.
I was just thinking while you were speaking about the different businesses that could maybe operate different ways. You know, I mentioned the bar and the coffee shop, but then there's things like doctors' offices and things like that might have different regulations to consider. Is that something you guys might?
Yeah, and there's definitely in health, this is a major issue, and we're fortunate in the health sector in Australia is actually really quite privacy minded. And so there's lots of regulations and whatnot, and it's quite drummed into them quite a lot. But we have seen just even sort of in recent weeks, we've actually heard that 106 million visitors to Thailand had their information compromised recently. Going back, if you've been to Thailand in the last 10 years, there's every chance that your passport number or something was sitting around on the internet waiting for someone to actually discover it. So it is businesses of every type are now required, maybe for business purposes, but increasingly they're obligated to collect information, and they really need to be thinking about what they're doing to protect that. And if they are collecting it and storing it, they need to be thinking that it's likely to be discovered at some stage if they're not taking the right precautions. So they do really need to be starting to think about that. And another good reminder for all of us to really be mindful of what we share with businesses as well. So, there's some personal responsibility we all need to take to be careful. Don't just share things into your browser when you're asked to click on a link. Be mindful and challenge that at some times as well. But yeah, from a small business perspective, it's really important to be thinking about what they have.
And Susie's actually highlighted that in previous episodes about what information businesses actually need to ask for when getting clients on board or getting people in store. So I think that's an awesome intersection we've got there. But Adam, we've got a lot of questions and not a lot of answers at the moment. What advice, I suppose, we're looking for advice, aren't we, in this sector at the moment?
Yeah, definitely.
What advice could you give the people out there? We always get very stressed. Well, I get very stressed on this program because of all the dangers out there and the hacking we talk about. But you guys always have some really great advice and answers for us. So I'm coming at you again.
Yeah, look, whilst we're flagging the fact that there is more information that's going to need to be collected, it's actually a good time right now before things get crazy and we're all just scrambling to get back to business and open up again and start to welcome customers back. It's the right time now to be thinking about this sort of stuff, which is kind of why we're flagging it now. So it's really important as a first step just to take stock of what you're actually collecting and handling as an organization. It's hard to protect something if you don't actually realize that it's there in the first instance. So take a couple of minutes, think about what you've got. Once you have that, consider some of these scenarios we're sharing. What would happen if it was leaked online and someone was able to get access to it publicly? What would happen if someone got into our systems or someone shared this information inappropriately? How would we handle that as an organization? It's a really important exercise to go through and think about. And once you've kind of thought about how you would like to react and respond, or what you should be doing to actually take care with this information that you've identified, think about formalizing that into a policy or a plan, or put something in writing that you can then ultimately share with the rest of your team so that they're aware of it. It's really important to make sure that your whole team is being mindful of this type of thing and aware that it's not okay to take a photo of someone's vaccine passport with their Medicare number on it and store that on their personal phone. It's really important to make sure that that's clear. If you're ever stuck with any of this sort of stuff, you're not kind of sure where to go and how to start with this, reach out, ask someone to give you a hand. Obviously, Cynch, we're in the business of helping businesses with this type of thing, so please reach out to us if that's something that you're interested in. But it is really something that we can all sort of take some steps now to think about and prepare for. And look, if you've got all of that under control and you're pretty comfortable, give yourself a big pat on the back. And, as we always say, look for a few security updates to install. Go off and just keep other things going and running around. So we have seen recently, in particular, the network devices that we all rely on, modems, firewalls, connected cameras, all of that type of thing have been under attack. So, if you've got your privacy under control, go out, look for some updates to install.
Yes, my hacking policy is called the panic policy. Delete every app, block everything, delete and remove and clear histories, and yes, panic protocol is what I call it. But Adam, you just touched on it there briefly. There's been a stack of new security patches and advice released this week that viewers should be mindful of. Can you just list those ones for us?
Yeah, there's a few that have been floating around. But this week in particular, or in recent times, there's been quite a few network devices that have been under attack. So, the usual stuff is out there as well. So make sure you're patching your operating system and your web browser and all those things. They come up very regularly at the moment. It's really important. But we have seen in particular Netgear routers have been targeted with some attacks. There's some specific internet connected cameras. So if you have cameras connected into your network, that's important to make sure that they're protected, as with your light bulb, as with your fridge, all of the other things that might be connected up online. But yeah, in particular this week, we'd encourage you to think about the network connection points and have a look at each of those and see if there's anything that you can update.
Fantastic. All right, Susie, just to wrap us up, we're heading into October, which happens to be my birthday month, which I'm very excited for, to be having my birthday
Me too, Mike.
in lockdown.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, right back at you, fellow Liberan. But it's also Cyber Awareness Month, which, thanks for bringing it to my attention, because I did not know that it existed until now. What can we expect?
Yeah, it's a really great initiative that covers right across the not just the cybersecurity sector, but also cybersecurity teams within large corporations. So what you'll find for the whole month of October, the vast majority of industry associations and large corporations will be involved. I know already there's just an absolute stack of free webinars, information, support, training, all sorts of events. And so this really is the time for small businesses to reach out to their trusted organisations that they usually rely on to get their up-to-date information and see what they've got going on, because whilst all of these resources are free and available, now's the time to really up the ante in terms of what you know is going on. Certainly for us at Cynch, we're involved in a number of webinars over the course of the next month and podcast releases, etc. So there's a stack of us out there talking and giving away free advice, so take advantage of it while you can.
Fantastic. You guys are in the podcast syndicate as well?
Oh, yes.
Fantastic. Susie, Adam, thank you so much for joining me in the studio on the big screen for this episode of TICKER Cyber and sharing all your insight. As always, much love.
Thanks, Mike.
Take it easy.
Done. Another great discussion there, guys. And today's episode, as usual, was presented by the team over at Cynch Security with a C. You can see it in the top corner there. If you'd like to learn more, head over to their website and find out how Cynch will keep you on top of today's threats so that your business will continue to grow tomorrow. And for more discussions surrounding cybersecurity, property, crypto, and way more, head to tickeroriginals.co. I'm Mike Loader, and thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.